Hello, welcome to the Walk You and Dustin show for the week 6 HFFL, the only show for the HFFL. We have Dustin who's back from like a 2 week hiatus now.
Uh, yeah, maybe. I know I missed 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Sorry about that. I didn't
No
know we were
worries.
switching days, so I had some like stuff planned on Fridays. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I should be good the rest of the way.
No problem. And I think I'll be back on Thursdays, hopefully soon. Not next week, but the week after, I think. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, um, we welcome our guest who's been on before, but he's back. It's Diaz.
Yeah, sorry guys, you're stuck with me today.
No, no, no. That's not what happened. But actually, it's kind of what happened because
We asked everyone else, and we had to circle back to Diaz, unfortunately.
yeah, there was an unnamed guest who I thought might be able to come on, but didn't get back to me. So we have Diaz on, and look, we're glad to have you again. Honestly, I don't want to make it seem like you're just a backup, but actually you kind of are. So
Hey, you hang with them, you win some, you lose some.
but I know we talked like not too long ago, so we don't have to talk about the draft. But I think in terms of how your season is going, 4-1, what is the vibe that's going on in Harlem?
We're taking it 1 week at a time. We're very happy with the way our team's played. How could you not be? We're looking around the league. There's a lot of parity, and there's a lot of really, really good teams. I mean, I take it no disrespect that we're not number one in the power rankings, even though we're number one in the standings, because Virginia has a great team, LIC has a great team, and it goes really all the way down the list. So we just want to make sure we give it our best shot every week, and hopefully we can make it to the playoffs and see what we can do there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've started off pretty well with the 4-1 start, so um, the recipe looks good at least for the first 5 games, but every matchup is tough, as you're saying. Um, who did you face last week?
Break
I think
kills,
we
I
faced
think.
great kills. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you guys faced off. Oh wait, Dustin. I keep forgetting. That's Dustin's not
No,
there.
I mean, I still root for. I mean, that's still I'm the founder of Break Kill Sky Elephant, so
Ah,
I do still like follow along and root for my team. But yeah, I mean, Harlem's obviously a very dangerous team. I saw it firsthand. They scored 60 amongst 3 players on Thursday night, and they weren't satisfied. And honestly, it wasn't that shocking because that group of players have been doing really well. So they're going to be really hard to beat when they're all firing. And I think there's some upside left on this team too, so we could see even better weeks, which is pretty scary.
yeah. I mean, I wrote about it as well on the power rankings, as I noticed how balanced your team is. Diaz. It's just you and Kimmel have really put together a nice roster, I think, and yeah. I mean, I don't want to praise it too much. We don't have to focus too much on your team if you don't want to, but yeah, it's a pretty nice collection of players here that you're starting every week, and um, so far you guys have done a really good job. Really good job.
Thank you. Yeah, you can call it the Duho effect because I was trying to trade Cooper Cup, but couldn't take any takers, so I had to keep him, and it worked out pretty well.
Disrespecting my boy Cooper Cup like that, man. I get I sent him to you last year, and you were trying to trade him.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's yeah.
S S SMH, you just fell right into wide receiver one Cooper Cup.
yeah. I mean, that's also my boy too. Man,
Yeah, yeah. We're the believers, but we're benefiting none off of it.
I mean, I remember we talked a little bit, right? Diaz before the season, but I guess it wasn't close. My memory's kind of a little dark and hazy there, as I've been talking a lot on the trade line, so I forget. But yeah, he's been really good. I mean, he tapered off a little bit recently, as I think they kind of had to. But yeah, he's just a really really good player, even though he might not seem like it. So, like at least from the beginning of the season, in terms of like fantasy ADP and stuff like that. For some reason, he just.
yeah, yeah. So far, so
I
good.
thought I thought you were referencing his the color of his skin,
Oh,
perhaps, but
whoa, that's
but
not
no, no,
something
no, yeah, no, you're right. ADP wise, he was a
ADP
little bit
wise.
disrespected for sure. I was
Yeah,
like, where's Wonky going with this? But no, that's pretty fair. That's pretty fair.
yeah. I mean, we don't have to continue talking on your team, I think, Diaz, because we did that a lot last time. So why don't we just go straight to the power rankings? Because I think this is something that we've been talking about like the whole season, right? Like just looking at these rankings and discussing it. And this is like a unique opportunity here because we have the three rankers
Yep.
all in one
Yep.
room. So you can kind of hear about all of our mentalities. Like, why did this happen? You know, why did you peg Oakland down to, and why do you have them below Virginia? I mean, that's a question that I've heard from someone else, Duho, that and and he wanted to know the answer. But so maybe starting there, you know, like what fueled the Oakland drop of 2? I mean, for me, I haven't even touched Oakland, but I rank them the lowest. But yeah, where did you guys stand with Oakland before? And then how has that changed in recent weeks?
Diaz, you can go first.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of kind of obvious downgrades. Tyler Lockett, because he lost his quarterback. Allen Robinson has really been struggling all season. And, the QB2 position here is looking a little bit more challenging. Um, you know, it, I'm not super confident that Jameis is really going to become a thing. I think he is what he is. He's not really going to benefit a ton from maybe the Sean Payton offense any more than we've seen. So he'll be inconsistent, and it seems like Derek Carr may have the same issue. So, as always, it's tough. And I had Oakland, higher last week, but seeing a couple of those wide receivers, their wide receiver room is struggling right now. So I had to take that into consideration.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the Lockett thing, probably way less likely to have his boom games while Russ is out, and that really hurts the overall wide receiver room. And a lot of pieces are kind of trending down, like you said, Allen Robinson. For 36 and a keeper, like he's not performing how you want him to. And then I think one name you didn't mention, Miles Sanders. Like we've seen two national games from the Eagles, and the usage in both of those games are really, really concerning, and luckily he does have Alex Collins on the bench, and maybe that's the guy that steps up a little bit. But I mean, looking a lot thinner if Miles Sanders isn't startable at all, and then the wide receivers, as you named already, and the quarterbacks, definitely kind of problematic, So, I mean, they are trending down, but obviously some of those pieces could come back up. But I just think they're probably somewhere in that pack. I think it is starting to shake out into tiers for me now. While it is still pretty open, I don't think any team is like overwhelmingly going to run away with it. But I do see a couple of maybe 2 or 3 tiers now in the league. So yeah, they had to drop a couple of spots, I thought, and yeah, I mean that doesn't mean that they're out of it or a bad team. It's just some of the pieces are trending a little bit down for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I cover your ears, Duho, but I don't think I liked the team as much as you guys did from the onset, right? Clearly, because I started low. I didn't even move them, right? I started them at 7, and they stayed at 7. So
yep.
I clearly didn't like them from even a week ago, and it is to what you guys have already said, in terms of some of these really struggling players, right? Like Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson. I'm just laughing because Duo just reacted to Allen Robinson, right? He's been no-show. And then TJ Hawkinson, he does this every year. He shows up for the first 1 or 2 games, and then he
does start hot.
Yeah.
Hawkinson does start hot. His first 2 games of the year, you're like, oh my god, this guy's gonna be like a top 3 tight end.
Yeah.
And then the middle, he's like either nursing an injury or just like kind of like playing hurt and like not doing that well. And then he'll have a couple more good games towards the end. But when I was ranking him high, you're right. I was considering Hawkinson to be top 3 or 4 tight end, but now it looks like he's going to be way shakier and less consistent than what you would expect from a guy.
Yeah, I think that plays into it. The preseason hype, right? I think everyone was crowning him as like, oh, he's the next Kelsey, he's the next Waller, he's the next guy who's gonna make the jump. And once you see that first week, you're like, oh, he did it, it's done, guys. We're putting him right up there. And then you have to watch what he does the whole season. And I mean, I'm not saying he's not talented. He's a very talented player, but it's
Yeah,
just the environment, right? It's tough.
yeah,
It's tough
yeah, yeah,
to do well there.
yeah.
They need
The
more
the
weapons.
Lions
So
the Lions O line is really banged up right now, and he's staying into block a little bit more,
yes,
which
yeah.
hurts his odds of producing in fantasy. He's a good real life player, and he is playing through injury, which probably does hold him back a little bit. But for fantasy, it's not looking as consistent or as exciting as it looked like it could be. And I actually think Diaz's point is actually really good. The quarterbacks, I don't know if he's ever going to know which one to start, and that could really be a problem because I do see both of them kind of maybe trending sideways or down. Derek Carr, really good start, but if Derek Carr is going to be inconsistent or closer to the last 2 weeks, Derek Carr, all of a sudden this roster isn't as well rounded as maybe you were thinking 3 weeks ago when Derek Carr did look like he was, having a MVP type of season, or not MVP type, but like he was starting really really strong. So, yeah, big concerns there for sure.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I will say the running backs look okay if you just ignore Miles Sanders, right? You got Eckler and Taylor. That's fine, but
Yep, yep.
um, you know, Sanders really is another depressing piece. But Alex Collins now looks like he's going to be someone he could plug in there immediately. So that is the good news, as well as Josh Allen. So some good news. And again, I don't think this team is that far away from the top tier as you're mentioning, Dustin.
Yeah.
So it's
Wong's you
not.
trying to soften the blow now after he nonstop shit on this team for like the last like 10 minutes, and now he's like, but not that bad, not that bad.
It isn't. The more I
It
stare at
isn't.
it,
No,
it
you're
isn't
right.
that bad.
Yeah,
Like DJ
yeah,
Moore is good, right? Like he
yeah.
still has good receivers.
Yeah. No, the
Quality
whole
Lockett
second
is
tier.
good. Like
The whole second tier, I think, has problems of similar magnitude or similar problems. So it's just going to be like can he make the right moves to you know start trending up? Are some of his players going to bounce back and start playing better? Is he going to sell low, sell high? I think there's a lot that could be affected by the moves he makes in the next few weeks. So
makes sense. If you
pretty much
guys don't
where I
have
stand.
anything else, let's talk about Virginia a bit. I think Virginia is an interesting team. It hasn't been too much movement in our rankings a bit, but at least in the beginning of the season, there was a lot of disagreement about where to rank the team, right?
Hmm.
At least that's how I felt. I think my
Hmm.
rankings were a little bit different from you guys's. Let me check. I think that was true, but oh, this is not like the phone app where you can kind of see all the rankings.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think lately I've been moving Virginia up. Oh wow, so last week Diaz you had them as 4, and then I think you brought them back up this week to 3. Um, so yeah, I guess I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Diaz, on Virginia.
Yeah, I think one thing that I have to kind of credit Virginia with is at the beginning of the season I wasn't too enamored with their running backs behind Derrick Henry, but DeAndre Swift and Darrell Henderson have proven to be really reliable pieces. I mean Henderson, a little banged up, but both of them are performing better than I expected them to. Henderson getting pretty much all the work there as long as he's healthy. I thought it would be more of a split. Um, so he's really more of an RB2, maybe a high end, maybe a high end RB2 compared to the price that was paid. And so I have to take that into consideration when I rank the team. I couldn't put them any higher because I'm still not too excited about their receivers, especially with Galladay going down. But those running backs look really strong right now, really reliable.
Yeah, Dustin.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna be honest. Like, the team is okay, but for me, I'm giving them the champions respect until this team falters. I'm gonna assume that he is on top of his game, and I think the moves that he made even this week, I believe he traded for Waddle, which is a good buy low, with using pieces that were not central to his team. I think Fly is just on top of the game in finding the right pieces to move around and get upside in the right places. So for me, a lot of it is just until this team falters, they are the reigning champs. I'm gonna keep them pretty high until they show me otherwise. So I do acknowledge that some other teams look stronger on paper for sure. But this team is 4-1, reigning champs. I personally do think is one of the hardest and smartest working owners right now. So I'm gonna keep them high until they show me otherwise.
Yeah, I think I also fell in the camp of not believing as much in the team like Diaz. But then I think what really changed it for me was just seeing how dominant Justin Herbert and Derrick Henry are. I think those two are ridiculous. I think if you look at how he won last week, he had essentially nothing from anyone else. Literally, like it was just those two guys who just hard carried. And if you have those two adding up for 100, you can have players who scored three. Like it doesn't even matter who the rest of your roster is, honestly. Like just straight up, like you can take bets on random Singletaries and like random I don't know like Rashad Bateman even like just random people who maybe eventually they can become a player who gives you 10 or 15, but who cares? You have Herbert, you have Henry. They're gonna give you 100. Like just put that in. It's over. Like it's really hard, I think, to deal with something like that. And then of course there's Henderson and Swift, as you mentioned, Diaz. And then there's players like Keenan Allen and T Higgins. Eventually they're going to do well, especially the way he's constructed it with those stacks, right? So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to take the team down, I think, the way that it's currently made. So really, really well done again by Hua. Let's go to let's talk about Flushing because Andrew Chu, he just noted that he's surprised he went down. He will move down one spot to the number 5 spot, scoring 200 plus this week and losing. I mean, this was the Monday night game where we were all rooting for John to kind of meet his fantasy demise because of some of the taunting, I think, of the fantasy gods there. But what do you guys? I guess what was the rationale for moving Flushing down 2 spots, Diaz, on your ranking?
Oh boy, I mean, it's difficult. I think that the tiebreaker for me was the running back position. Looking at the players that they started last week, and that wasn't even considering what we learned today, which is that Chris Carson is going on IR.
Yeah.
But it's hard to count on these guys, and the good news for Flushing is they have the depth that they don't necessarily need to get a lot of production from what I'm talking about, Michael Carter and Javonte Williams or Melvin Gordon. But when comparing them to the other teams that were around them in the power rankings, I just felt like those teams had more cornerstone pieces that I would feel comfortable about throughout the season as compared to Flushing. But I mean, Andrew True is right that you scored 200 points. You're doing something right, and he's definitely got some great players on the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why Flushing went down was just the way I'm going to put it is because of you, Diaz, because you moved them down 2, whereas us 2 didn't move them at all. But but I think
My bad.
but I think the real story for me is well, I didn't overreact. I knew you scored 200, so again, kudos to you for that. But you did go head to head with Mars. That's an in division, right? That's in division opponent. And I think Mars is really the big mover, right? So it's really John moving up maybe pushed you down, and again that was the head to head. And Mars also got the Hamilton, right? So as he so proudly claimed in the Discord,
Called it a bit early.
Called it a bit early, yeah, a little like a couple hours early. So, I think that all influenced it. But again, I didn't touch you in the rankings. But yeah, Dustin, your thoughts on Flushing as well?
Yeah, I mean, so my ranking philosophy, I think it's very different from your guys's. I know you guys look at what you can forecast from what you see on the roster probably a lot more than me. For me, I just look at what the results have been. What happened so far, and how would this reflect on a hypothetical power ranking if like this was like real life football and like these are the performances that came out. Obviously, a little bit, I'll be like, oh, someone important got hurt on this team. Maybe that could ding them a little bit. But for me, I probably look at what has happened a lot more than you guys. And for me, this week, Mars and Flushing went head to head, and Mars beat them, right? So to me, that's I just had to move Mars up, but Flushing did put up a really really good score. So I would treat that as like like two really good teams had a shootout, and you don't ding the team that played really well but lost that much, but you got to move up the team that secured a huge win within the division, Hamilton, all that. So I definitely not disrespecting Flushing, although I do think the Carson news and maybe Kyler getting a little dinged up, Brady getting a little dinged up, maybe that does like affect their long term outlook a bit. So maybe if I was looking at that more, maybe I would drop them a spot or two. But for me, it was just mostly we saw a matchup between Mars and Flushing. They were ranked really close the week before. Mars beat Flushing, so just had to jump them. And fifth is still a pretty good spot for Flushing, I think. Definitely a strong team still. But yeah, I mean, definitely no insult to what they've done so far.
I mean, see, I don't think it's anything about your team, Andrew. Too like it's a good team. It's a really good team.
Yep.
I'm already.
I mean, he has the most points in the division, although
Yeah,
he has
yeah.
had more more players go for this week. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the stronger teams in our division for sure, and definitely a strong contender. But yeah.
I mean, the other thing that I'll mention is they are on a 3-game losing streak, I believe. So it used to be the number 2 spot, but couldn't continue, I guess, some of the success in the last couple of weeks. So still a good team, but that's just how I
Wow,
think.
I actually did not. That's actually they're really high in the rankings considering they're on a three game losing streak, and I
True.
guess it is because they have had pretty strong
Yep.
performances for the most part and been losing despite that. So that's a testament to why they're so high. But 3-game losing streaks in my book would pretty much mean your team is not doing so well right now, not performing the way it should. So I would probably have it lower without the context of the scores that he's been putting up. So I think it's still a strong sign that he's as high as he is, even with these close losses that he's been racking off.
One, I just realized this by looking at the standings, but this is huge. He's 0-3 in division.
Yeah,
That's not good.
Not good for sure.
And that could have, I mean, it's still early, but that already has implications for the playoffs. I mean, that's, I mean, you can't control it, obviously. Like, we can't control any of this game, but
I
like,
can control all.
but
yeah,
I mean,
you're right. It is going to be impactful, especially because it is a really tight pack right now. So like if Flushing were running away with it or like something like that, division record is probably not going to matter. But there are 3 teams at 2-3, 1 team at 3-2. If there's a tie break, that division thing could come back to haunt them. So it is very relevant. I think good job pointing that out.
it's funny too because that means his 2 wins is like out of division. That means he's
Yep.
our Mario division killer, right? And
Yeah. I think
that's
the rest
crazy.
of us probably not doing so well against the other
No,
division.
no,
Yeah.
I for sure know I have not been.
Yeah. That is a crazy stat though. Yeah.
Man,
3-game losing streak and 0-3 in division. Those are surprising when you look at
surprising,
the points he's put up and
crazy.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but it's also just crazy thinking about when I look at the top 5 teams that I power ranked, it's crazy to me that one of them is going to miss the playoffs. So we've been mentioning Mars, so let's talk about Mars next. But man, it's just this year is kind of insane. I don't even know. But Diaz, you want to talk about Mars and why you moved them up this week?
Yeah, I mean, you two both said it. It was a really impressive win. Uh, they scored the most points last week. It's hard to deny Mike Williams and Debo Samuel look like they're legit top I don't know what you want to say, 12, 15, ranked receivers, which we were looking at those two, were they going to crack the top 36 before the season? So transforming, those two roster spots into very reliable players, assuming health and everything else, it changes the complexion of this team. And then when you look at the fact that they could be starting Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey, assuming Christian McCaffrey ever plays football again, in the same lineup, that's an incredibly dangerous combination. So I felt really compelled to put them close to the top.
Yeah, I think he needs to trade away Christian McCaffrey because all I see is, when I had McCaffrey, he was healthy. I don't know what's going on in Mars, but
That's
man,
true
this
too.
is
Yeah, he doesn't like the Mars gravity. I think it's
goodness.
messing with his like hamstring. He's not stretching well. I don't know, something
Come
something
on.
there.
Yeah, seriously. But I don't know what you were going to talk about, Dustin, but I'll tee one off for you here. Uh, the QB position. I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
I do. I mean, I said it earlier before the cracks started showing, but I guess Hurts is still putting up numbers, but I don't know if Hurts and Daniel Jones are. They get a lot of like garbage time. They get a lot of like kind of stuff that doesn't pass the eye test as much, and I think that's going to catch up to Mars. That's really honestly the only concern I would have about this team because like Diaz said, Debo and Mike Williams, I think it's pretty certain that they're at least more than what we thought they were coming into this year. Depending on if they fall back a little bit or not, I don't know that, but they're definitely more legit than we thought. So this team really doesn't have that many weaknesses, but the fatal flaw could be, Daniel Jones does have some bad games every now and then. He does look pretty bad at football sometimes. Jalen Hurts, he's putting up good numbers, but you hear a lot of buzz about, should Hurts be benched, and that's only going to grow unless he turns around his real life play, no matter how good his fantasy stats are. And Lawrence has been a little bit up and down too, although I do think he's trending in the right direction. So, that would concern me long term about this team. Like, it does kind of feel like a house of cards right now at the quarterback position. It could come all tumbling down. Um, but this team definitely likes to make moves. I could see all of those guys playing for a different team in a week or two. So it's really hard to say like, oh, this team has a long term weakness because a lot of these guys might not even be there in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, my angle with this team is the trade that I made with them. I think when I was talking with John, the trade was involving the players that were in it, right? Kamara for Clyde Edwards-Helaire and DeAndre Hopkins, and there were some others, Tyler Higbee and Darnell Mooney, but mostly it was those
Yep.
three players. I think that were kind of the centerpiece of the trade, and it really was a statement about the rest of his roster as well, right? He is saying basically with that trade that he believes in his wide receivers to carry what they've been doing for the rest of the season, right? The Mike Williams, as Diaz mentioned, the Debo Samuel, right? Those guys are going to be top wide receivers. I mean, I don't know about top 10, but Mike Williams probably will be, but top 20 at least for Debo Samuel. So I think that was the statement that he made there, and then it's kind of like the flip side for me, right? I kind of had faith in my running backs, which was a bad decision. But anyways,
I just want to say actually though, sometimes the best trades are the ones you don't make. Because I do know that Mars was shopping both Mike Williams and Debo Samuel around this offseason.
Yeah.
And they couldn't find the right deal for them, or maybe they thought twice about it. But they could have easily been paying for different teams, and I don't think the price would have been, unattainably high for a lot of people. So good for him not trading those guys because he is being rewarded heavily for that.
He's probably confused about that. He's like, what? I got rewarded for not trading? What is this?
Yeah. He's not used to that.
But it's true. That happens a lot. It's I mean, Diaz just mentioned it for himself as well, right? Cooper Kupp, and there's many examples, many examples.
100%.
We're just flat out wrong. We just we try to make sense of this game, and it never makes sense. So you can't. You always have to expect the unexpected, right? It's just like kind of a cliche, but it's just true. That's how life is, and more so in this game, you feel really in a way helpless because there's nothing that you've predicted actually will come to fruition. I mean, it's like if you have like a hit rate of like 30%, maybe you're doing well, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so.
Yeah.
And also we can't forget. I mean, this is the storyline of the week is Kadarius Toney. I think if he's actually something for Mars, I mean that's really interesting as a flex option
Yep.
down the road as a bye week fill in. I am still unsure. I'll be honest. I think I've already made it known my feelings about Toney. I just think he is a head case, which he also showed this week. I think he showed that part of himself as well. But
Yeah, that was really really dumb.
I like his talent. I actually do like his talent a lot.
No,
But
no, he moves differently from a lot of guys, which you know, it's always you like to see, a special type of movement
yeah.
or a special type of skill that pops off. But there are issues. He does seem like a head case. He has gotten criticized by coaching staff already this year. He also did produce a lot while a bunch of guys were injured,
True.
which maybe that's just him taking advantage of the opportunity, which it probably is. But it could also be looking differently against a different team with different configuration of wide receivers out there. So very interesting though, for sure. Really good pickup. I believe he traded for him, right? Actually,
Yeah.
for Fab.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
I really good timing to pick him out before he had this breakout game. And I will say, I know that's your line, but we'll really have to see if he can really sustain this or not.
Diaz, you have any thoughts on Toney?
You drafted him. You
I
drafted him, right?
dropped him. Yeah, I definitely regret that at this moment. But I agree with in the off season, in preseason, it looked so tough for him. He was injured.
A lot of guys
he wasn't practicing. And yeah, it's the Evan Ingram effect. You look great when there's no one else there to catch passes. So we'll see if when people come back.
Yep. I did say when Jay picked him up, this could be like the T Higgins of last year, where he did give up on a guy with decent draft pedigree, because it wasn't happening right away. And I don't blame anyone because in this league, like sometimes you just can't wait on guys. You gotta cycle them through and look at other guys. You can't just have. It's too competitive to just have a guy that you think is kind of talented, but it's not showing out on the field, right? So definitely no blame or criticism of Harlem for dropping him, but sometimes the teams that do have the space for that kind of talent, they end up benefiting. But I guess Jay traded him away, so he didn't really benefit either.
He got Fab, I guess. But he should have done it a week later.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, again, man, I really doubt his commitment to the game, but I mean, he really showed out. So maybe that changes his role. Maybe the coaches will just put up with it and let him play. But I don't know. We'll see. I think one team we really should talk about is LIC. That is the number 1 ranked team. Man, their team is really, really good. I think we've just been saying that about every team, but it's just true. I think all of these teams are really, really good. Man, I don't even know where to start. Diaz, do you have thoughts on Warren's team here?
This one is really tough for me because the thing that makes me shake my head whenever I look at this team is Leonard Fournette and Marquise Brown, who were waiver wire pickups for like,
what?
I don't know, $5, $6, right?
Wait, Marquise Brown was a waiver wire pickup?
Was he drafted? If he was drafted, he must have been drafted for $2.
He was drafted for $3.
He had to have been drafted. There's no way he's a waiver wire.
But
it's like dropped. He was very cheap to acquire either way. Yeah.
Yes, he was cheap. That's true. That's a good point.
These are guys who it's like, while I was drafting Brian Edwards and
oh no,
Gabriel Davis, and I said to Danny during the draft, do we want Leonard Fournette? And he was like, no. I was like, do we have any interest in Leonard Fournette? He could be the guy in Tampa Bay, and not to throw him under the bus, because I was like, yeah, no, he's Leonard Fournette. He stinks, even though we had him last year and he was good for us last year. But obviously, he, I don't know, like, and it's so frustrating with Fournette because he's not really that good at football, but they're just content to feed him. Like, okay, you don't like Ronald Jones, I get it. But like you have Gio Bernard there. You have, like you drafted Keyshawn Vaughn for some reason. Like, but no, Leonard Fournette is our guy. Like we're good with him. Let's just keep it going with him. And obviously, it's working out really, really well
I'll,
for
I'll tell you
Warren.
what the answer is. Leonard Fournette is a suck up. He sucks up to Tom Brady and Bruce Arians, and he is benefiting a lot. I mean, he definitely doesn't pass the eye test in a lot of facets, but I think he shows that he understands exactly what Brady and Arians are looking out of that position, which is don't fumble the ball, don't make any egregious drops, don't miss assignments, just run hard when you do get the ball, and I think he's shown that he understands that's what they want out of that position, whereas Ronald Jones is looking to do some more stuff, but he'll fumble every now and then. He'll drop the pass. Same for maybe Gio Bernard or Vaughn. But I think Fournette I think Brady and Arians feel like they can trust exactly what they're getting out of him. So anytime they're up in a big game, they'll feed him. And the fact that, they're in so many blowouts, he's going to get some valuable touches in a lot of games. So it is just really coming together really well for him. It does look like he has the role all to himself for the foreseeable future. So, yeah, I mean, that's something that you really can't predict. I know you're probably frustrated that, you had Fournette last year, but it wasn't like this. And, you had a chance to draft him for cheap and you just didn't. But I don't think anyone could have seen this type of situation unfolding the way it has.
Yeah, I mean, Leonard Fournette, I think, is a source of frustration probably for everyone because he was a waiver wire pickup in like week 2. Everyone just kind of stared at each other and was like, should we really, Fournette? Because we all saw it. We all saw that he was not so great. And, Warren was the one who was like, I'll go and take that. Give me some of that. And it's worked out really well. It kind of reminds. So he's the running back number 7 right now. I mean, it's a little bit skewed because he played last night. I think that's also why
he's not a running back 1, but he is a very useful running back 2, which is
yes,
more than enough for a team that is stacked everywhere else like LIC is.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of, you guys remember back before when Warren picked up James White that year when he blew up. Inexplicably, he was like running back 3 for no joke.
Yeah.
Was and he was off the waiver wire again, and I had the same frustration. I was like, James White, really? Do I need should I pick that? And Warren was again like, oh, I'll give me some of that. I'll take that, and boom, running back 3 or something and it's so frustrating to see that because it's a waiver wire pickup, as you're saying, Diaz. And you kind of know that there's a chance, but yet you see them and you're like, that doesn't feel right. But any case, kudos to him for making that move. And I know we're just going on a long rant about Fournette and James White. Yeah, I mean, I remember a lot of these things because I try to remind myself these things are possible. These things are always possible. And yet I still made this mistake again with Fournette, right? It's just and it's not just you, Warren. I remember a lot of really good pickups from a lot of people.
The biggest mistake you can make in fantasy football is overestimating how much you know. You don't know shit, honestly. You don't know shit. Anytime you're so certain of, oh, this guy is not a thing, or this guy, I know a lot. I don't know a lot of things, but this guy isn't gonna do this, or this guy is definitely gonna. You don't know shit. That's got to be the one humbling thing you take away from fantasy football every year. If you win, you lose, whatever, great. But the moment you start thinking, okay, I have a really good read on how football works and stuff like that. That's when you'll start. You're sipping your own Kool-Aid. You'll make mistakes.
I honestly, every year, I do this every year. I go to the ADP of the prior year and I remind myself how stupid everyone was. Literally, every single time. Just to remind myself, do not fall in love with ADP. I always tell myself that because it just never comes out the way that we think it is. No. So it's really humbling, as you're saying. It's really humbling.
Every year, even the guy that the guy that wins the championship every year, he has 200 mistakes that he made. It's just getting enough things right and getting lucky with enough stuff to put yourself in position to win it all. But like even in my perfect season year, like there's so many things that I was wrong on, and sometimes you avoid it by like, oh, someone outbids you for a guy that you were really high on, and that guy ended up sucking. But you were higher on him than anyone else other than that player. But you get off the hook because somebody outbid you for that guy, by $1. But you could have been second highest on that guy, and you suffer none of the downside of having him, whereas the guy that won him didn't. And then there could be a guy you completely ignore. You could have had him for $1. I mean, every team will have like hundreds of these,
Chris
So
Thompson, Chris Thompson, someone like that.
Exactly. That was another big, similar to James White.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, you remember that one? I remember that one too.
It annoyed the hell out of me because it was so key for your bye weeks. I remember that.
It
oh
was,
my
it
god. But anyways,
I ate good off that Redskins team for sure, because they were not a like great real life team, but like they were always in those game scripts where they never ran the ball. They passed a lot. I had Cousins and like Thompson.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and their defense was dog shit.
Yeah.
Like Kirk Cousins was like a top 5
Yeah,
QB
Kirk
that
Cousins.
year.
Oh my
and
god.
I got him for like nothing. That was definitely
Cousins.
one of the memorable ones for me. And everyone has someone like that. So
Yeah,
it is
definitely.
frustrating, and it should be what grounds you. It should be never think like, oh yeah, I know what's gonna happen, or I think that this guy is good, this guy is bad. You don't really actually know anything.
Yeah, the big one for me was Dak. I remember I got Dak. That was,
Yep.
I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, whatever, let's do it for the memes. And he actually was good. I was like, what the I gotta start this guy now.
100%. That's why I used to, I still am critical of moves just for the sake of the show, because it's boring. It's boring if I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that could work out for everything. But like, even if I am critical, in the back of my head, I'm like, but I don't really know anything. Like, I don't like this pickup, but what do I know? Like, that's like in parentheses every time I will, give my opinion on anything that happens in this league. In parentheses is always, but what do I know? And I think that should apply for everyone. Even if you watch 200 hours of tape a week, and you watch all 22, like you might have a slight edge over the average person, but it's such a slight edge that you shouldn't really put too much stock into a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny. It's just funny how it works out, and just gotta think. I don't know. It's tough. It's right. Like it is a lot of fun too, because things like that can happen and break your way. But then it's really frustrating, as Diaz was just mentioning as well. But anyways, this is a really long tangent from where we were talking about.
It really is. It really is.
LAC. Besides Fournette and Hollywood. Hollywood also really great, really great pickup from the draft. That was just very smart.
Bateman season, though. Bateman season.
Bateman? I think maybe. You never. I mean, Watkins is out though, so maybe it's just
True.
plug him in there. But with Pittman looking like maybe he's legit, but maybe T.Y. Hilton takes away from him. I don't know. I mean, this team looks really has no weakness. I'm looking at it. I'm just staring at it. Has no weakness. Maybe Justin Fields actually. Sorry, I just realized. Yeah, go ahead, Diaz.
No, yeah, I mean it would have had no weakness if Russell Wilson hadn't messed up his finger, but Justin Fields, I think a lot of us believe is gonna, has a lot of potential to put it together, but it's hard because the Bears are terrible and they never seem to be able to figure it out.
Yep. It's really hard to trust that offense. Yeah. Matt Nagy's really dumb, just straight up. I think I can say that.
I will also say that their depth is like being stretched very thin with the injuries to Chubb and Wilson. They don't have the pieces on the bench that some other teams have, where you're like, oh wow, you could definitely get away with starting this guy. Like, Elijah Moore, I think, is talented, but I don't know if you could trust him to play at any point. AJ Dillon is pretty much a handcuff at this point. I mean, he has had some good games, but I don't know if it's reliable enough to start him alongside Aaron Jones in a given week. So, that's most of his bench. He has Ben Roethlisberger, Cephas, and Pitts is on bye. So with Russell Wilson and Chubb on the IR for now. They are one or two injuries away from being a little bit thinner than some other teams, and bye weeks are coming up and so forth. So it is going to be interesting, I think, to see how they address, that issue. I do think they'll be looking on waivers and, in trade talks to maybe, get some more interesting names in there. But for now, I would say that's their biggest weakness, which is a fine weakness to have in a league that's competitive. You're not going to be strong everywhere. So if depth is your, slightly biggest issue, then, that's something you could fix for sure.
Why is Cephas being rostered? Actually, I'm just kind of wondering to myself.
I
Isn't
mean,
he out for the year?
yeah, Warren is pretty washed up, so he probably just made a mistake in ad drops or something. I don't know. I'm guessing
I
probably just
didn't
a
realize it
mistake, I
until
would say.
now. Maybe I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean probably just a mistake, but yeah, I mean so that would be my biggest weakness with this team. If you look at the bench this week, it's not full of names that you think could contribute right away, and they're already getting stretched with injuries, and then bye weeks are about to start. So we'll see what they do to get some good names in there. But
Cephas was I on? Right. Russell Wilson
Chubb was a late.
and Chubb too. Yeah, both of them.
Yep. Yeah.
Now I get it.
So
I
before
got you.
Chubb got hurt, yeah, he had Chubb in the starting lineup, and I guess Cephas might as well have just been on IR because it's not like he can use that spot for anything else. But
That's unlucky. That's unlucky. I was going to say that they have by far the best defense. By far. By far. So this is another thing to just consider about LIC is like there's room for them to maybe even do better in a sense. You could argue both ways, right? You could say the defense might underperform, or if you assume that the Bills defense is going to be the best defense, then their offense could actually start generating a lot more points for them, right? But I'm just pulling up the defense special teams standings here. I just like to look at some of these stats because I'm a complete nerd, but LIC is just leading this category by a lot.
that could be a mirage too, though. Obviously they do have some really good matchups coming up, and they've performed like crazy. But there is probably going to be some regression to the mean, just because even if you are the best defense in the league and you are facing bad teams, it's just hard to drop 40 points every other week and have a baseline of 10 points.
Right, right.
I believe New England defense for Harlem a couple years ago, had that crazy start, and while they were still a good defense in the second half, there has to be some regression to the mean, and so we could be seeing a little bit of that with the Bills. So while their total point total is very impressive, and I'm not saying that's like inflated at all, but the difference between this team and the second or third best team is probably closer than that disparity would indicate.
Yeah, and one thing just to add on this, if you look at the statistics for offense, Mars is the best offense
Right.
as well, and they're the ninth best defense. So they've
Yep.
only gotten 19 points in the whole season.
Yep.
The whole season. Actually, all four of these scrubs, these guys all have less than 25. Oakland, Yonkers, Mars, and New England. I'm calling all four of I guess us, out because what is this? This is horrible. But anyways, yeah, that's like just another point for Mars, I guess. Just looking at some of these stats,
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, the gap could definitely be really, really, really close, despite the total point lead being, bigger than you would expect at this point in the season. Even if you are the best defense and you're facing good matchups, no defense keeps up this rate. It is a little bit fluky, I think, but I do think that's the best defense the rest of the season. It's definitely a strong point to have on your team. So it's still a really, really good team on paper.
Yep. I think we only have a couple minutes, but we can talk about maybe a team that's on the lower half of the standings that you guys think have some promise. I mean, I do see New England has moved up too. I think on the show we don't talk too much about the team because I, as a host, get a little uncomfortable about talking about my team sometimes. But what are your thoughts on the Kingfishers and the rationale maybe for moving them up too?
I mean, for me, I really wanted to give you credit for a great week. It's been a difficult season in New England, I think, so far, and that was a really great win, a really exciting win to pull it out on Monday Night Football. So, it's deserved. Lamar Jackson is the face of your franchise, I think, and he really came through. It's great to be able to see a great player like that play such an incredible game.
Yep, very true.
Yeah,
Yep.
for me, like I said, it's less about looking at your team, but just the performance last week was really fun. Really big win to bring yourself inside that pack, only a game back from a division. And I like the said, Lamar Jackson being Lamar Jackson. That's honestly the thing that will decide whether this team hangs around and makes a playoff push or whether they just peter out. So it's definitely promising to see Lamar looking the way he has. This season so far, some really big performances mixed in, but tempering expectations by keeping them in the bottom half, just because there are a lot of injuries, a lot of guys that you're still waiting for them to come back and stuff. So it's going to be a matter of, can you stay alive long enough for all these guys to come back, and if when they do come back, are they going to perform like you think they can? But definitely one of the more dangerous teams, just based on what this team could be. But also, your total points are a bit lower than a bunch of teams, so it's a little bit of optimism going forward, but a little bit of you know, not luck, but like this team hasn't really been that dangerous in the first 5 weeks.
Yeah, the other I think big story on top of Lamar Jackson is Jamar Chase, who really has turned around some of his preseason talk where he couldn't catch a ball, but he can I think we've confirmed that he can catch a ball, and he's been showing out pretty well for the first 5 weeks. I think it's mostly been just him and Lamar really carrying the team. It's a lot of changes and new faces. I threw in Kenneth Gainwell. That was bad, but anyways, like just a lot of shuffling of the roster, and we'll see as the season continues. What is yeah, I don't know. This one I guess coming from me managing the team, it's just been really tough to kind of piece it all together, keep the team competitive as much as possible week to week. It's like a week to week game in New England,
Yep. Yep.
honestly. I'm just
I
trying
mean,
to stay
yeah,
afloat, you know?
the most encouraging thing is honestly that the division is only one game ahead
Oh,
away
yeah,
from
yeah,
you. You know,
yeah.
so being 2-3 keeps you alive, but even more than that, the division leader only being 3-2 means, I mean, you've lost like pretty much no ground, even with all these injuries. So uh, it's obviously going to be tough to like work things out because guys are still injured. Your running backs are a bit shaky
Yep.
from week to week. But those are problems that some resourcefulness will work through, and obviously a guy like Lamar Jackson, if he's performing to his top, he is kind of like the situation you said with Henry and Herbert. Like Lamar Jackson is the type of guy that can carry you to victories, and you're probably going to need that in the next few weeks. So definitely a good sign that you're still alive. Definitely could have gone worse. I mean, the injuries couldn't have gone worse, but your record could be worse right now,
Oh, absolutely.
considering how many rough weeks and how many rough injuries you've dealt with. So yeah, I would be cautiously optimistic for this team. It's gonna take still more work, but there's signs of life, which is always what you want to see. Mid-season.
Wonky, let me ask you a question. Speaking of Jamar Chase,
Yep.
say hypothetically someone came to you with a trade, the best player in fantasy football, whoever you want to say, Josh Allen or Justin Herbert or Ezekiel Elliott, whoever, straight up for either Jamar Chase or DeAndre Hopkins, who would you trade?
Like
Would
considering
you rather trade away DeAndre Hopkins or Jamar Chase right now?
considering like our league for like every all of our league rules
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
right?
Like if another owner, if
I mean, there's
Yeah.
there's no question in
Yeah,
my
I would
mind,
trade away
but
Hopkins.
yeah,
Chase,
10 times 10 days a week, 7 days a week.
yeah, so I will admit this now. Jamar Chase, when I saw him, he to me was going to be the next Michael Thomas for me. Like I saw a lot of that in his game. The
Yeah, I
Michael
mean,
Thomas,
you
the
traded
slant
up for
boy,
him, so
right? I saw a lot of that in him, and even more. I thought he was faster. So I was like, man, this guy is insane. And right, as Dustin said, I traded up. So yeah, I mean, he was kind of my guy, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I think another interesting thing is, let's say if I had the 101, I think I would have still chosen Chase as well. And I'm not like, I know it's kind of easy to say that now, but it was true even earlier. Like, he to me seemed like the best player, even, disregarding the positional scarcity as well. So yeah, I was
Well,
just
he was the
wowed
first
by
one
him.
taken in the NFL draft, so
That's true as well, I guess. What
should be the best player.
I guess that's true. I guess that's true. But fantasy wise, right? Because if you think about it, a lot of the first picks that were made in the last couple of years were all running backs. So it it is kind of against the trend a little bit. I mean, it is tough. If I was actually in the 101, would I do that? I'm not sure. I mean, I say that obviously now. I feel like I would, but Najee
Believe
Harris,
me, I had that conversation with myself and with
yeah,
Danny of like,
I bet. Yeah,
should
yeah.
we try to trade it to Wonku? He's probably going to take Jamar Chase, but we
Yeah.
were. It's a
Okay.
difficult decision. Because all three of those top players who were taken are looking good right now.
That's
So
true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. That's fair.
I personally had it Pitts, Chase, Harris, but Harris I think has found a way to be more productive than I thought. I did think that offensive line was bad, but his involvement in the passing game is just really promising. So good job sticking to your guns on that. For me, for Pitts it was the positional value. I just thought if he reaches his ceiling, which I think we saw a glimpse of this week, that kind of talent at tight end could just be a really long-term game changer. And then I thought Jamar Chase was, regardless of position, I thought the best player in the draft. So if they were all like, wide receivers or running backs, I would have taken him. But, obviously tight end is a little bit more valuable to me than wide receivers. So I had Chase second. And then Harris, it was nothing against his talent. I just, had some serious concerns about Steelers offense and their offensive line, but they found a way to get him involved, every week, even if the running lanes aren't always there. So I don't think there was really a mistake in any of those picks. But
No, yeah.
I did have it Pitts, Chase, Harris, but turns out there was no wrong pick.
And yeah, I mean, I was telling Warren this too. I think, like, even if he picked Chase, I would have been happy with Pitts. I mean, Pitts
Yeah,
is
yeah.
freaking amazing.
No, yeah.
So yeah, there's no wrong pick. It's just yeah. I mean, I think I like because of, again, my history with Michael Thomas, right? I really felt drawn to having that kind of guy again. But I mean, he catches a lot of these long touchdowns, which I didn't foresee, to be honest. I thought it was gonna be like once or twice every 4 weeks he could do that, but it's kind of crazy that he's doing
Honestly,
this.
Chase and Hopkins could be the same salary, and I would probably still trade Hopkins before I trade Chase, considering their age and how I project their next 3 or 4 years to be.
Wow. So
I mean, Hopkins is good, but if Hopkins was what is Chase, $17?
16. You're saying if Hopkins was 16.
Yep. And someone said, "Here, I'm giving you the best player in football. Give me one of $17 DeAndre Hopkins or $17 Jamar Chase." I would give him $17 DeAndre
I see.
Hopkins.
I see. Yeah. I think I would probably do the same too.
Yeah. So the fact that Hopkins is 55 and Chase is 16 makes that not really a discussion for me. It's like whatever. I'm giving Hopkins frame one. So, but yeah, I mean you could have different view on what Chase is. So I guess that question could be legitimate. But for me, I don't think that's even a question.
I think it wasn't a question a month ago, but the other direction. So that's why I think it's really
Yep.
incredible.
For sure. But yeah, we have seen the last month, so I would feel pretty comfortable making that trade that way. I mean, Hopkins
Yeah,
is 29 and Chase is 21. If they're the same price, and Chase already looks as much of a game changing threat as Hopkins.
he's being graded out as one of the best receivers in football, not rookies of all of the NFL.
Yeah. So
He's already the alpha where there were two established guys there.
yep.
It's really incredible what he's done.
Yep. I think. Yep. Again, I mean, I hope to have him as kind of the new face, as Lamar's contract is going to end. So that's kind of hope, but we'll see. It's only been a month, so it's
It has,
obviously
yeah,
easy to
in a month,
extrapolate, right? But
in a month, maybe the take is completely obvious.
yeah,
Obviously the other way. It could be,
it could be,
but
right? Yeah.
yeah. But that's how quickly changing everything is, and I know just right now in this moment, if that deal were offered to me, I'm pretty I for 55 Hopkins or 17 Chase, it's a no brainer for me. Yeah.
That's I'll just say it's like the only thing I'm patting myself on the back for, Chase. That pick. That's like the only thing I feel like I've done well. But yeah, with that, I think we can wrap up. Unless you guys want to talk about any other teams, I know we left out a couple teams, but I think it's just as usual. These shows we can't run through all of them. We're just gonna go. We can spend like 3 hours on it, honestly, if we wanted to. But we'll probably talk about some of these other teams next time as more of the storylines develop, and there's always going to be, I think, a lot of changes this season. I think these rankings, even week 5, it feels like they haven't stabilized. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of even injuries and developments and things like that. Even trades, right? Like even Zach Ertz moving, maybe that affects people potentially, right? So I think this season is going to be the most competitive we've seen in a long time. Still boggles my mind that one of these top half teams is not going to make the playoffs for the HFFL. So I think it's going to be an exciting finish.
Maybe more than one. Maybe more than one.
Interesting.
You never know.
Interesting.
You
Yeah,
never
you're
know.
right. Capital Region, right there.
Yeah.
We
I mean,
didn't talk
yeah,
about him, but he's
there,
on the cusp.
yeah. The fact that there are no, undefeated teams at this point, there no team is, feeling too safe in their chance for playoffs. Obviously, some are more encouraged than others, but from bottom to top, I think every team still thinks they're in this, which is, a pretty good sign. This not late in the, like this far into the season, I think that's a pretty good sign.
Yes, and honestly, everyone is. I think as you talked about there's a at least for the Luigi division, the division lead is 3-2. So anyone is still in play for the division lead, all
Yep.
the teams. And then
No.
on the other
Yeah.
side, they are all in prime position just from the standings alone, right?
Yeah.
I think the weakest team there is 2-3. So
Yeah.
just from the wild card, they're I think a game back.
Yeah. Basically, every team in the league is still only just 2 games behind their division lead, which we're 5 weeks in. It could have been a lot worse. So even the 1-4 team, obviously you're 1-4. You don't desire it to be, but it could be worse. The top team, if they're 4-1, you're looking at a much bigger hill to climb. So I would say every team, even the 2-3 teams in the other division, 1-4 team, they're all right in the mix. It just has to start going right, but.
Yep.
We could be having completely different conversations in 3 or 4 weeks for all of these teams.
Or we could do the gentleman's agreement that Duo had and just all go to
That's
3-3,
true.
right?
That's true. Unfortunately, the schedule doesn't work where everyone can go 3-3.
Ah.
Some of the 3-3 win teams play each other, so someone's gonna end up with or also Harlem and Virginia already have 4
Oh,
wins.
true,
So
true, true.
yeah.
True.
So, but I mean, it could easily be still a 2-game lead in like 2 weeks, which two games separating top and bottom in 2 weeks, which is as tight as it gets. So.
And also another thing is, even if you're 4-1, that doesn't guarantee you anything either. I mean, it's not like the season ends at week 6. I remember, like I always say this story, right? I went 4-0 and I missed the playoffs because
Yep.
it changes really fast, the NFL.
It does. It does. It does.
So you never know what's gonna happen, and it's gonna require the best out of everyone each week, every week.
Yeah. It's a function. It's a function of nobody, turning off like managing their team. Like in other leagues, like participation will peter down, and you'll have some guaranteed wins like later in the season because like this guy's not checking his team that closely. This guy hasn't made a move in a while. But in our league, like it's never like that. So you can be 7-2. And then just go on a 4-game losing streak, and you're sweating out tie breaks and stuff. It's happened before, so I think that is the strongest part of our league. I think the fact that everyone is always clawing for wins every week, because of overall record is always on the line. The consolation bracket was a huge change that facilitates this, but I do think it makes it so that you can be sitting 1-4 and still be dreaming of playoffs, which is really nice.
Yep. and or 401 and being really nervous. But yeah, I mean, thanks again for the show. I think this was really fun to get a look into some of our thoughts in how we do the rankings. You know, yeah, I mean, it's not something that we talk about, I guess, all in the same room too. So really cool. Thank you guys again, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully, we'll get you on again, Diaz, if you make the playoffs, right?
Sounds good. Knock wood. Thanks again, guys. See ya.
See ya.